This is the FSU School of Theater Scene Shop training tutorial on jigsaws. So here we have our jigsaw. This is a Bosch jigsaw. Blade selection is important with the jigsaw. Make sure you're selecting the right blade. To change the blade on these particular jigsaws, there is a lever right here. Pull that lever and it'll spring it right out. To put it back in, make sure it's engaged to the bearing, back end of the bearing, and slide it in place and then let the lever come around. Making sure that the blade is centered on that bearing so that it will operate correctly. Some of your adjustments are your speed control here. So this has a speed control which is kept right here on the back, is where your speed setting is. Trigger operated. It does have a lock for the trigger. This is for your comfort so that you don't have to hold the trigger the whole time. It's not so you can set the tool in another way so that you're away from the trigger. If you press it again, it will unlock it. It does have a light which can be illuminated here. It's being a little difficult. Okay, well that feature's just not working. Also, there's a pitch control right here. So the larger number pitch control, the more that blade is going to swing out into the material with every depression of the cut. There's also a control here to allow an attachment for dust collection through the back through a attachment that's available in its box, and then you can attach a hose to that. So some of your variables may be what you're cutting, the material you're cutting, how aggressively you want to cut it. If there's a lot of contours that you need to follow, you might need to select a smaller blade. You might need to control your adjustment here as to the pitch control, how much it's going into the material, and also your speed control. So there's a lot of factors with your selection on your jigsaw setup. Make sure that you're unplugged before you do any of these adjustments, particularly the blade adjustment. When you're ready to cut, make sure that you put this in a material area where the overcut won't matter. So if it's on a table, the overcut's going to hit the table, it's going to cause damage to the table, it's going to cause the jigsaw to wander all over the place. Your setup on sawhorse is fine, but watch out when you get to a sawhorse with your cut. You may need to adjust and make sure that the saw blade doesn't come in contact with the sawhorse. So you need to make sure that you're watching the overcut of the area. Also, when you're cutting, watch your hand placement. Make sure your hand does not come into any area close to the saw blade. So be very aware of that. You can eliminate that as a possibility by a two-handed control. So one hand up here and another hand here. This will also help to steer as you're cutting more contoured cuts. So be very aware with the jigsaw. Make sure that you treat those things well. In addition, you can pitch this foot plate. On the other side of the tool is a locking feature. Once you unlock it, you can bring that back towards you, and then you can change the pitch of the foot plate. This will allow you to get an angled cut with this saw, and then you can set it back to 0 again, pulling back on it and setting it back to its 0 default. Whenever you're finished with the tool, set it back to a 0 placement. This has been the training tutorial on the FSU School of Theater Scene Shop Jigsaws.